You are listening to Live the Dream Media, exclusively on the Live the Dream Media Network.
Thank you for tuning in to the Live the Dream Media Network. Our featured broadcast will begin shortly.
You've got a voice, but are you ready for a global audience? Don't just settle for standard studio rental. At Live the Dream Media, we amplify your voice by broadcasting your podcast completely live on our exclusive online radio network. Whether they're down the street or across the world, your listeners can lock in live on YouTube, Meta, and the Live the Dream Media app. Why choose live? Because real-time connection builds a loyal community, extends your reach further than ever, and turns a simple recording into a massive digital event. Stop waiting on the edit. Go live, build your crowd, and live the dream with Live the Dream Media today.
Radio evolves more as the years progress, and it is only becoming better. Introducing the Live the Dream Media app. Catch your favorite music 24/7 and tune into live podcasts, or catch up on your own time with our on-demand library. No matter where you travel in the world, you can be anywhere on the planet and stay connected. Download the Live the Dream Media app for free today on the Apple App Store and Google Play, and experience radio reimagined.
Ready to go live? Take your show to the next level and host your podcast at the Live the Dream Media Professional Studio. From our fully equipped space, you can seamlessly connect with your audience and live stream in real time straight to YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and more. We handle the technical side so you can focus entirely on your content. When you book with us, you get access to top-tier microphones, premium production gear, and full support from our professional audio engineers, all with flexible booking times designed to fit your schedule. Go live with our studio team today. Visit ltdmedia.net or call 520-373-2059 to book your session and live your dream live on air. Here at Live the Dream Media.
Think the music is the only thing rocking this station? Think again. We are bringing you the absolute best in live broadcasting all week long. Turn your dials to the Live the Dream Media Network for our powerhouse lineup of live podcasts airing Monday through Friday. Start your mornings right. Wake up every single Monday through Friday morning from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. with Wake Up Live, hosted by Christopher D. Simone. Stick around Mondays at 9 a.m. for the Marana and Oro Valley Experience with David Samorano and Clint Peak. Then tap into your local community with Southwest Flavor with Ron Arenas at 9 a.m. And don't miss Sobriety, Spirituality, and Sales with Mike Curry every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. Get informed at 9 a.m. with Inside Track hosted by Bruce Ash and Eb Wilkinson. On Thursdays at 10 a.m., we are talking sports with Ron Arenas and Will Pena. Catch former NBA star player Bob Elliott on The Bob Elliott Show every Friday morning at 9 a.m. for 30 minutes of incredible conversations with amazing guests. Lastly, keep an eye out for The Clint Peak Show, popping up at various times to share the stories of amazing people's lives. No matter the day, your story is worth telling, and we are bringing those stories to you live. Tune in to our live podcasts right here on the Live the Dream Media Network. Don't miss a single minute.
Are you ready to elevate your business brand to a global audience? Partner with Live the Dream Media and unlock unmatched reach and visibility through our professional advertising network. Whether you want top search visibility with pay-per-click ads, over-the-top ads, strategic social media campaigns, or massive reach across our podcast network, we have the tools to scale your business. We target major digital, audio, and TV platforms, connecting you directly to local and national listeners, as well as major streaming television networks like Hulu, Peacock, ABC, and much more, and even our online radio. Take control of your growth and start advertising now with a team that delivers real campaign performance. Visit ltdmedia.net or email contact@ltdmedia.net today to partner with our team and start living the dream.
You are listening to Live the Dream Media, exclusively on the Live the Dream Media Network.
The views and opinions expressed on Inside Track are those of the hosts and their guests, which do not necessarily reflect those of LTD Media or their sponsors. But they should.
Welcome to Inside Track with Bruce Ash and Eb Wilkinson on the Live the Dream Media Network.
Hello, everyone, and a very pleasant good morning to you, wherever you may be. Welcome to a special edition of Inside Track. Bruce Ash and
Eb Wilkinson.
Coming to you live from the Live the Dream Media Studios in Marana, Arizona. We're in the middle of the 2024 election cycle. Boy, they had a barn burner in Florida yesterday and a few other states. But one of the most important missions this fall is to maintain Republican leadership in the Senate and House to fuel more success in this final 2 years of the Trump administration. Today, we'll hear from two guests who are part of that mission to keep Americans safer, prosperous, happy, and most of all, continue to be, as John Winthrop once said, the shining city on the hill. It's time for Republican candidates and our party leaders to hit the trail and drive hard and keep conservative momentum moving forward. Dr. Zuhdi Jasser is the Republican nominee for Arizona's 4th Congressional District, and he'll join us here in just a couple of minutes to talk about his fight to replace the current do-nothing Democrat who currently holds that seat. Dr. Jasser is a bright and articulate man we think will impress you. We've had him on the show before, but it's been a while, and he'll be with us in just a couple of minutes, I hope. We'll also hear from Zach Kraft from the RNC on a first-time ever midterm Republican convention. That sounds like a pretty good idea. We'll talk more about that later. Eb?
Sounds good. Thanks for joining us on Live the Dream Media app or watching us on X, Facebook, YouTube, and any of the other platforms out there. The first half of the show is brought to you by our good friend Eric Rudin from Essential Pest. Call Essential Pest to keep your home or business free from vermin, bugs, weeds, insects. Call them today at 886-3029. Summer is here. The bugs and vermin are out and running rampant.
Yes, they are.
And the red ants
Oh yeah.
are out like crazy.
We actually sent them out to one of our office communities. There were red ants that are coming up the window, up the wall, outside, and then like congregating on the windowsill.
Wow.
It was driving people in that office crazy.
Well, give them magnifying glasses,
Well,
like we had when we were kids.
better yet, I sent Essential out to take care of it.
Who has a lot of magnifying glasses and kills them stone cold. Bug Sphere Essential. Call them today to protect your home or business.
Also supporting Inside Track is Ebb's great company, Wilkinson Wealth Management. Did you know I'm a client along with my sister? He does a great job for our family, and he'll do a great job for you also. Our other sponsors, Tucson Iron and Metal Surplus and my family-owned company, Paul Ash Commercial Real Estate, where we make good things happen every day. Eb?
Hey, while we are waiting for the doctor to come on, let me bring something up that is important. I had an email from one of my clients who said, hey, I'm listening to Robert Kiyosaki, the guy who wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Oh.
And he said there's an upcoming market crash that we need to be very careful of. I did some quick research. This guy has called 15 of the last one market corrections, and that was the first quarter of 2020 that recovered before most people knew it had gone down. He
right.
didn't even call the 2007, 2009 correction that we had, which, by the way, from the bottom of the 2007, 2009 market correction, the market has recovered almost 11 times.
Yeah.
It's gone up almost 11. It's gone up 5 times since the top of that. So the people that are listening to him, he's there to sell his product. He is not there for your financial future. Ignore that. So
Good advice from Eb.
Absolutely. So let's get right to business. Bruce and I are pleased to welcome Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, the Republican nominee for Congress in Arizona CD4, to the show today. Hey, Dr. Jasser, thanks for joining us.
For having me.
Oh, good. The sound's up now. Perfect. Not everyone may be familiar with your background as a highly regarded lieutenant commander in the U.S. Navy. Your role as the attending physician for the U.S. Congress and your role with Islamic Forum for Democracy. Phoenix-based radio host Seth Leibson describes him as the kind of man our government should listen to. He goes on to say Jasser utilizes his commenting, speaking engagements, and media appearances to press Muslim leaders to aggressively oppose a culture of separatism. Talk about your origins and why the hell are you running for Congress?
Well, thanks for having me, Bruce. And, my run for Congress is really a culmination of a lifetime of service to my communities. My first love and passion is as a physician, primary care doc, taking care of families, multiple generations here for over 27 years in the Valley and in the district in Tempe, Mesa, Chandler, Ahwatukee, Phoenix, and South Scottsdale. And as I see, when I was in the Navy, I served because the only thing I die for is this country. I'm the son of immigrants who escaped a socialist fascist regime in Syria and was able to practice my faith, of all places, in Wisconsin more freely than in any Muslim majority country, because the vast majority of Muslim majority countries are either theocracies or military dictatorships. And my faith that I love has not gone through Reformation, so it still hasn't separated mosque and state, and needs an Americanism, if you will, to just like our founding fathers fought against theocracy. I was able to begin that process, and come 9/11, realized that a lot of the battles that we had in the Middle East had followed us here, because the greatest threat to the world, as far as the domination of socialism and fascism and theocracy, is Western liberty, is Americanism, and that's why they chased us here. And I felt I had a responsibility to fight back, and we formed a foundation to counter the disease. And as a physician, I always like treating root causes, not just symptoms. And the disease, as far as radical Islam, the Muslim Brotherhood, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, all these groups, the disease is political Islam, the Muslim Brotherhood groups. And now fast forward, we see a jihadist movement that is now getting into Congress. We have Al-Sayed in Michigan, who is a Democratic nominee that is really the penultimate farm team of the Muslim Brotherhood, supported by a lot of the Islamist groups. You have Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib in Detroit. You have Abdullah Adam Hamawi in New Jersey. And Swalwell's seat's going to be filled by a lady by the name of Aisha Wahab, who's also an Islamist. So I can, not only do I feel like the seat that I'd like to be a member of Congress in has been filled by an empty suit by the name of Greg Stanton, who's done nothing, who has squandered the seat, has really nothing to show for the 850,000 constituents in our district. But I see a movement now in America that is glorifying a utopian concept of socialism, which is not only anti-American, but a failed economic system. And I can tell you as a doctor, healthcare has been now socialized to where big healthcare is the problem. I know how to prosecute the case against socialism in healthcare, against big healthcare that has dominated and created the biggest unaffordability crisis in America, which is in healthcare. And I know how to prosecute the case against Islamists, radical Islamists, and I've been blessed to have a family that taught me about the beauty of Americanism, and I can prosecute the case for why America is that shining city on a hill.
So, Zuhdi, let me ask you a question about that. You're a Muslim. The Islamists hate you. Describe the difference between being a Muslim and being an Islamist when a lot of people out there don't know the difference.
Well, the difference is I can tell you what that is, and what I believe it is that the Islamists believe in theocracy. They believe the Constitution should be the theocratic document of the Quran, their interpretation. The legal system should be Sharia, run by imams and clerics. And just like the West went through a separation of church and state that created our Establishment Clause, our First Amendment, and canonic law was relegated to simply the church and universities, that process has not happened in Islam. So while in my mind, many of us reformers do separate and have rendered unto Caesar what is Caesar, unto God's what is God's, that process has not happened. So right now, big Islam, whether it's Saudi Arabia, whether it's Iranian theocracy, the Pakistani Islamic Republic in Egypt, in Pakistan, or the Islamists of the Brotherhood in Egypt, almost 2 billion people on the planet are Muslim. The vast majority of the political and authoritative regimes and governments have not gone through that separation. So you see the major parties in those governments are Islamist. They believe in a theocratic legalism where the rights of individuals come from government. They don't come from God directly. So that's why, as an American, I feel that the greatest weapon we have against that threat, because that threat to us in the West is not only the Al-Qaedas and ISISes that want to destroy us, they're working hand in hand with the socialists of the Chinese Communist Party, with the Russian government, with so many of our enemies, from Venezuela to Iran. That's the red-green axis. So we have to understand that our greatest weapon is not to say that Islam is the problem, but that Muslim reformers should be at the head of that spear, that they are part of that solution. And I can navigate that within Congress to win that argument on day one, so that I can say, you know what, the Ilhan Omars couldn't even get a security clearance to be tour guides at a government facility, let alone be members of Congress. And I can navigate what we're fighting, in addition to why the Hassan Pikers of the world that have millions of followers that are radicalizing our youth. And my wife and I, we raised our kids to be very pro-American and pro-freedom and pro-free enterprise, and yet so many Muslim youth are being radicalized. So the way to fight that is to expose that Hassan Piker is a socialist, is somebody who loves China. He's a threat to America. But the socialist adjacent people are almost a bigger threat. And the Greg Stantons and the Schumers of the world are socialist adjacent. They're Hamas adjacent.
Well, the good news about Ilhan Omar is since their divorce, they're still brother and sister. Bruce.
Just a real quick comment, Zuhdi. So on your website, in your section that talks about supporting our military and making sure that we have a strong defense, you've shown 3 countries that potentially are enemies of the United States: China, China, Iran, and Qatar. And that's a complicated relationship, isn't it, between the United States and Qatar, isn't it?
Absolutely. And, this is why in my book, A Battle for the Soul of Islam, that was published by Simon & Schuster, I went into the fact that this binary approach to countries needs to change. We're no longer just either we love them like the Saudis, we hug them, and then we let their companies like Lucid come into the United States and just sort of set up shop, and somehow we ignore all their human rights disasters and how they fuel to the trillions of dollars our greatest enemies. Same thing with Qatar. We have our largest base in the Middle East, and I understand that we can't just abandon that relationship overnight, but to deny the fact that they have actually funded the radicalization of our students. When you see after October 7, Qatar's press release on October 8, 2023 was the most heinous press release any government could have released about what happened to Israel, what happened to the Jewish community. They basically, on the day after that, 1,400 Israelis were slaughtered, women and children and grandparents and grandmothers and grandfathers. They released a press release saying that it was a cycle of violence and that Israel needs to stop its aggression. I mean, that is our so-called friend. That is not. So in my book, I talk about the fact that we need to grade our allies from A to F. And the Pakistans of the world are a D-. We don't make them an F because they have nuclear weapons. The Qatars of the world are an F, and we need to start the process of removing our base from Qatar. Turkey's similar. Turkey's in NATO. Turkey and Qatar are the two largest funders of Islamist movements in the planet. Erdogan has been in power now for 20 plus years in Turkey. He is essentially the Islamist movement head of the AKP party, which is the Muslim Brotherhood. They're very anti-American, anti-Semitic. Hasan Piker is from Turkey. His father is Cenk Uygur, a left socialist who has a large YouTube platform, The Young Turks. Hasan Piker comes from that lineage and belief in that same Islamist. So the worldview that we're fighting, the Qatars and Turkeys of the world don't share our worldview about liberty and freedom and pro-Israel, the fact that Israel is a little America in the Middle East. So yes, it's a complicated relationship, but members like me in Congress can immediately shed that identity politic that Obama and Biden's DEI program made Islam into a race. It's not a race, it's an ideology. Yeah. And when we engage countries, we need to be able to separate ideology from American interests.
And that's why I brought this up, Evan, Doctor, because these are not black and white sort of relationships.
Oh no,
these are all kinds of shades of different colors, and your understanding of this issue, I think, is vital to be heard within the U.S. Congress. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So to that end, when Bruce told me that we were having you on, I immediately called a confidential informant who spoke on the condition of anonymity, Sue Ritter, who said that nobody knows the Middle East like you do, and nobody understands the relationship between Israel, the Middle East, and the U.S. like you do. With that being said, if you're elected, what specifically would you want the federal government to do differently on this issue?
So I have to tell you, and the reason this race, my race has now taken on national importance because of what we see happening in Michigan and elsewhere. We need a firewall in Congress. And the things that I would begin to do is to publicly not squander the bully pulpit of what a member of Congress has the ability to do, but to begin to work. I have a coalition that I built and I co-chair called the Clarity Coalition. Clarity stands for Champions for Liberty Against the Rise of Islamist Tyranny. And we are a diverse coalition of Muslims, non-Muslims, atheists, Jews, Christians, Hindus, women and gay rights activists, and so many other activists of both parties, which is why, Stanton claims he works a bipartisan way. I have proven that I can do this. And what I would begin to do is create coalitions to create a strategy where we begin the end of forever wars. These are not battles that we can win militarily. We need to have a policy that advocates on the ground, just like in Iran now. President Trump finally has begun to end the 47 years of kicking the can down the road to nuclear armamentation of Iran, where they get 6 weeks close and then we somehow negotiate out of that. Now we've completely decimated their military, and we're trying to figure out how to at least arrest their ability to progress, and President Trump has done that. So support the more forceful, if you will, insurance that they don't have nuclear weapons, but then to begin on the ground the process of having an offense. And that offense includes a domestic policy and a global policy against Islamists, against socialist movements. And that's why there are many things, for example, in healthcare. The battle against socialism and vertical consolidation in the healthcare market, with big healthcare, with just 4 or 5 companies left, is something that is wedded to, if you look, Al Sayed, the biggest Muslim Brotherhood leader right now in America, wrote a book on Medicare for all. It's not a coincidence. And this is why I'm so well suited to take these guys on. As a primary care doc, I know exactly why Medicare for all would be a failure, because Medicare itself has been a significant challenge and impedance to American transparency and affordability in healthcare. So the socialist battle, the battle against socialism, is wedded to the battle against political Islam. And a lot of the navigation in Congress for legislation to put obstacles against the red-green axis, the socialist Islamist axis, I can begin on day one. I have a plan to have a Truth in Healthcare Affordability Act, which would have transparency about the cost of healthcare, because right now, so much of the expenses in healthcare, the government was shut down for 45 days in the fall of 25. And Greg Stanton voted against the opening of that government because he said subsidies were necessary, et cetera. Those subsidies were fueling the C-suites in the healthcare system.
Right.
The C-suites were making 10, 20, 30 million a year while they claimed they needed charity care in the ERs to keep government open. And when in fact it was related to greasing the pockets of big healthcare at the expense of the American unaffordable insurance. And that's why we need to have legislation to have national competition across state lines for health insurance. We need to take away the incentives for private equity buying up companies across the country in healthcare. So there's a lot of things we can do in a legislative way in the Congress.
Well, since you brought that up, that we need to start subsidizing all these healthcare ailments and start solving them, what does that mean in practical terms for Medicare, Medicaid, prescription drugs, obesity, things like that?
So first, it's transparency of pricing. Have patients have some skin in the game as far as being able to understand, when I do a procedure in my office, why does it cost 10% of what it costs at the hospital? Why are insured patients paying for the uninsured? And this is the whole system. I understand that big healthcare has some things that they do free, but if you look at the large healthcare institutions and the percent of their total budget that goes to actually pay for charity care, it's not much more than what it is for smaller businesses that give charity, et cetera. So at the end of the day, price transparency is number one. Number two, competition in the insurance market. Right now, there are 50 different cartels of insurance from state to state, instead of having a mass competition so that we can actually have variation in insurance coverage. Right now, there's so many different cartels where it locks in. There's no competition. Even here in Arizona, Obamacare supposedly said they were going to have, affordable insurance. And what it did was prevent patients from keeping their doctors, created a socialized system where you're waiting months and months by rationing care, because there's only 2 or 3 mechanisms for getting the exchange systems for their insurance. So that's second. Third is, I think President Trump has been appropriately working on decreasing the cost of prescription drugs, but at the end, you can't mandate that through government mandates. There has to be free market mechanisms of increasing the competition, and there are legislative ways to do that. Last, I would decrease, right now, if you look, a lot of the free restriction of trade and competition in the market, predatory markets where the Cignas of the world are buying up practices, that prevents competition so that there is no price elasticity. So we need legislative remedies that protect small businesses in healthcare, no different than the chambers in our districts across Arizona protect small businesses and want to prevent predatory practices in health in every industry. Healthcare should be similar to where we protect small businesses like mine. And I know because I've signed the front of my paychecks for 27 years, and I've seen businesses fail and fail and fail because of the big healthcare pressures.
Dr. Jasser, let me drill down on one of the key points that you just raised about the Cignas of the world who are buying practices. Because as I understand it, what they've done basically is they've turned these doctors' offices into quote unquote hospitals from the standpoint of insurance compensation. So, normally they'd get X number of dollars if it was in your office or my office as a private physician. I'm not a doctor, but you get the idea. Versus a hospital where they could collect several X times what that compensation would be, and it's all flowing back to the insurance company or the big health companies in this country. Is that kind of correct?
100%. And I'm running in a district that's
That's
what?
So basically, you've got the doctors and the offices paying tribute to the mafia boss.
Exactly. It's a cartel. And it's a cartel in which, by the way, this is why I believe that Greg Stanton is very vulnerable. Over almost 40% of his campaign donations come from PACs, many of which are large, big healthcare. And this is a bipartisan problem. If you look, Dave Schweikert, his last bill that he left, a gift for us from Congress, was a bill that basically Aetna was supportive, which is Medicare Advantage plans should be opt-out instead of opt-in, which is a horror show as far as I'm concerned, because that's the last bill that Dave Schweikert, a fiscal conservative, dropped, which I'm not sure how many doctors he talked to that are in practice or patients, but at the end of the day, that's not the solution. That's basically becoming Medicare for all, which is decreasing competition. And the big healthcare folks want to get more of the market, so then they can turn to government and say, look, this is the price we have to serve. There's only 3 other companies at risk here, and you have to infuse more cash, which right now healthcare is $5.3 trillion. It's over 20% of the GDP. So you can take that market and say, okay, let's infuse competition, price transparency, so that the dollars, because patients right now, they spend on healthcare 7 times: Medicare tax, Medicaid tax, co-insurance, deductibles, premiums on their healthcare insurance, and then back again for their pharmaceuticals, et cetera, et cetera. So 7 different times. That needs to be drilled down to HSAs, for example, to other drives, so that the doctor and the patient can, in a much more price elastic way, affect the economic spend on the front line. And while there are some doctors in Congress, Senator Barrasso, Kennedy, and others, there's not that many primary care docs. And I can tell you, as a primary care doc, I know exactly what prior authorizations and these so-called private companies that are Fortune 5 companies do to arrest care and prevent it through prior authorization obstacles, et cetera. So if you look at the socialist system globally, the way the government takes over the economy is by slow torture. And once it gets over 20-30% of the economy, it becomes a socialized system. And that was why Obamacare was a problem, is because it looked at taking over 20% of the healthcare of the total economy in America, which then would set them up to take over the rest of the economy. And that's what's happened. COVID put the nail in the coffin by dishing out cash, increasing inflation, increasing the indebtedness of government. And we need people in government that have not been parked there like Stanton and doesn't know how to make ends meet and has never had a budget in a business that he has actually had to run.
Yeah, and to that end, I pay a lot of money for my insurance, and yet when I had to get an MRI a couple of weeks ago, it was still cheaper for me to pay cash than to run it through insurance. It was double the cost out of pocket to run it through insurance than it was to pay cash. Oh, and by the way, paying cash, the appointment time suddenly got closer than it was prior.
Exactly, because it saves them a lot of money.
So you're a primary care physician. One of my other confidential informants, who shall remain unnamed, Jeff Fleetum, said that you do a great job up there doing primary care. What makes your practice different from all these other practices? How are you able to do that?
Well, thank you for that. And, I bring a passion to, it's interesting when you build coalitions, every patient I take care of, he or she and I build a coalition of specialists to take care of them. I don't look at the registration of my patient. I don't look at the registration of the docs I refer them to. I just send them to the best doc of that specialty that I know to take care of them. And to me, that's what I want to bring to Congress is my community is suffering. Our country is on the verge. Imagine, God forbid, in 10 years, an AOC president, Ilhan Omar as Speaker of the House, a socialist in the Senate, et cetera, all these social, from Bernie Sanders on down. I see my country on the verge of, at its 250th anniversary, being critically ill to where we lose who we are as Americans and what Americanism is, which is entrepreneurship, free markets, that American dream, house ownership. We should have legislation that says China can't come and buy houses from under residents that are trying to buy a home, but we don't have that.
Farmland.
Exactly. Or if you look at the Saudi influence with the water, et cetera, Hobbes is trying to take credit for that when in fact it was actually many of us reformers that were beginning to shine the light on what the Saudis were doing with water here in Arizona, et cetera. So at the end of the day, I want to bring that same passion of coalition building to, if you look in my district, it's 40% independents, 33% Republican, 29% Democrat. We have no business having a socialist adjacent Stanton who just gets along by getting along without ever being a voice for people in our district who really want to see free markets and the American dream come true.
But I have a very important question for you now, Dr. Jasser. We're not done, okay? We're going to continue, but tell our audience how they can support you. How do they make a gift to your campaign?
Well, thank you. Our website is Z4AZ4AZ.com. And listen, I know that every district is important, but I can tell you, if you look, the future of America comes through districts like our 4th district here in Tempe, Mesa, Chandler, Ahwatukee, Phoenix. And if we can win districts like this and surprise the world and flip this seat, it's barely a 4% Democrat district. It's mainly independents. I've got the profile to beat Stanton, and we can send a national message on day one that the radicalization of the far left is not where America should be headed, and the independents in the center build coalitions that can help. And you can't beat an incumbent like Stanton who has 1.5 million in the bank without a national fundraising effort. So especially here in Arizona.
Well, the good news is you don't have to worry about AOC 10 years from now, because we're 5.5 years into the end of the world in 12 years because of not adopting the new Green Deal.
So, Dr. Jasser, talking about health, continue on that topic. Talk about your thoughts on MAHA and the need to reduce obesity in America. You talked briefly about obesity just a few minutes ago, but talk about your thoughts on RFK Jr. in his position with Secretary of Health, and also about obesity in America and what the cure is for this really, really huge problem.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think, as a physician, one of my expertise is I've been a bioethicist. I chair a bioethics program for one of the largest healthcare companies in Arizona. And as an ethicist, I can tell you, I saw things happening during COVID that, for example, I got the COVID vaccine. I did the first 2 shots and that's it. I'm not anti-vaccine, but I saw coercion and a governmental cultural force upon patients that I thought only my parents talked about what happened in Syria or what happened in China. And yet we were shaming people into doing things that we hadn't even proven was scientific yet, like masks and other things. So to me, the MAHA movement is a natural sonic boom of a pent-up frustration of patients being told what to do, how to do it, when to do it. And this is why price elasticity is important, because along with socialized healthcare, and this is why I disagreed with Justice Roberts, who said basically it was a tax. No, it is, healthcare is it can't become a full-on right. And this is why one of the first questions that Senator Paul asked RFK in his hearings was, is healthcare a right? And one of my concerns about RFK was he a socialist? And his answer was amazing. He said, no, it's not a right. Because once it becomes a right, you have to basically guarantee every demand for healthcare provision to a patient. And then the government needs to mandate that they work against obesity, smoking, wear helmets, all these other things that is not the government's business. So you can't have a welfare right become a right like free speech and things that you can demand at any moment. So at the end of the day, MAHA is part of healthcare freedom, the ability to choose. My wife and I were horrified that our children who were in high school during COVID were forced to stay home when kids weren't even getting COVID. It was an NEA union mandate that had nothing to do with healthcare science. So this is why MAHA, I think, is a natural, very American movement to say, you know what? Yes, a lot of good science comes out of the naturopathic movement. I'm an allopathic MD. I believe in double-blinded traditional studies, so I support that, but we can't marginalize and demonize Americans who really want to have the choice of what type of medicine, what type of science to adopt. So I support RFK in revisiting a lot of what was thought to be traditional science, even some of the vaccines that we mandated at childhood. Are those all necessary? Are we getting good consents from parents? That needs to be revisited. So a lot of that, I believe, is very American to revisit and being demonized by the left as somehow causing measles and other things, which really hasn't been proven.
I'm going to let Eb jump in here for a second. Unfortunately, we have lots more to discuss and not enough time to do it today with you, Dr. Jasser. I'm hoping that we can get you back on the show in a few weeks as
Anytime.
the election gets closer, talking about a lot of the other important issues that you really have some great thoughts on. Eb, let's go ahead and do that.
Okay, so where do you draw the line on individual medical freedom, since you brought this up, and the government's responsibility to protect public health during a genuine national emergency?
Right. So I supported Governor Ducey and some of the mandates for the first few weeks. Few is a bit gray zone there. Is it 2 weeks? Is it 4 weeks? It's definitely not 6 months. We have to understand that the greatest democracy on the planet did not come from being risk averse. We are a country that accepts certain risk, and we let families make those decisions. So shutting down businesses indefinitely, shutting down society because we think that one virus dominates. I can tell you as a primary care doc, I had patients dying at home with heart attacks, with bowel obstructions, with diseases that were not being treated. So yes, lockdowns might have saved some lives from a viral transmission perspective, but the cost was much higher with disease trading. And I was on the radio with Seth Leibson weekly talking about this disease trading, where we were losing patients to mental health, to drug addiction, to so many other things, because somehow this virus became dominated. So we need to, just like I do with my patients, we discuss cancer treatment, chemotherapy, radiation, surgery. You make a risk-benefit analysis, but we can't force that upon a society. We need to do it in conversation, and physicians who often will be very reticent to help their patients make decisions all of a sudden became the Faucis of the world, were mandating public health mandates, which I couldn't even fathom that they were turning into authoritarians. So I think there are lines to be drawn, and we are not a risk-averse culture, and we let families make those decisions. That's sort of where I draw the line.
Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, thanks for joining us today. This has been really a very, very interesting and promising time that we've spent with you. Tell us one more time how anyone watching today can support you.
So if people want real representation, want to flip the script on the Greg Stantons, on the Ilhan Omars of the world, help me flip this seat. Go to Z for AZ, Z4AZ.com. I can hit the ground running and begin to get some smart policies, not only from healthcare, but to the border, to national security, to corruption in government, et cetera. So look forward to having that conversation, but this can only be done if we have a national fundraising effort. So Z4AZ.com.
Thank you. And we'll talk about those issues when we have you on next. It's time for us to run off and present some messages from our sponsors so we can pay the Live the Dream Media man. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with Zach Kraft from the RNC talking about a first ever event for the Republican Party. No channel flipping. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Inside Track with Bruce Ash on the Live the Dream Media Network. Now a word from our sponsor.
It's termite season.
Hi, it's me.
And bugs fear the blue trucks from Essential Pest Control. Go blue at Essential Pest Control. We'll eliminate those bugs, bees, and termites. And stop paying too much to that national provider. Buy local for great service and affordable rates. Call Essential Pest Control because termites fear the blue.
Run for your life.
Call for the blue trucks from Essential Pest Control. 886-3029. That's 886-3029. Or check online at essentialpest.com.
This is Eb Wilkinson with Wilkinson Wealth Management, where we manage money for gun owners. What does it mean to retire comfortably and remain comfortably retired? It means designing a plan that allows you to do the things you want to do, outpace inflation, and never run out of money in your lifetime. If you want to retire comfortably and remain comfortably retired, call me, Eb Wilkinson, at 777-1911. That's 777-1911 or WilkinsonWealthMGMT.com.
I'm proud to welcome my good friends at Tucson Iron and Metal Retail to Inside Track as an advertiser. Jamie Kipper and her staff are conservation experts. They sell round and square steel tubing, metal plate and roofing materials, as well as new and used steel, aluminum, and stainless steel to ranchers, artists, interior designers, roofers, as well as you do-it-yourselfers out there. Tucson Iron and Metal Retail is open Monday through Fridays, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., and Saturdays, 8 a.m. to noon. Tucson Iron and Steel Retail, 701 East 36th Street. Call 520-209-1576. That's 520-209-1576. Or go to TucsonIronRetail.com. Come by and be sure to ask for Jamie. Tucson Iron and Steel Retail. This is what conservation and repurposing is all about.
Does your ordinary radio feel a little limited? If you're looking for a new way to listen, it's time for a fresh start. Introducing the Live the Dream Media app, your premier destination and a new level up for digital radio. Over the last 2 years, we've found new ways to ensure your digital radio experience is the best it can possibly be. From live podcasts that spark new perspectives to a 24/7 soundtrack of live music, and even our built-in merch store. We've built a platform that is convenient, high quality, and simple to navigate. But we're only just getting started. Catch all of our shows weekly and join the Live the Dream Media family today and help us change the airwaves forever. Download it for free on the App Store or Play Store today. Live the dream. The dream starts now.
Welcome back to Inside Track with Bruce Ash on the Live the Dream Media Network. Now back to our show.
Welcome back to Inside Track. This portion of the show brought to you by Eb's great company, Wilkinson Wealth Management. Eb helps my family and he can help yours. Let Eb comfortably guide you and your family into a secure retirement and stay comfortably retired. That's the essence there, isn't it? Stay comfortably retired.
That is the essence.
Wilkinson Wealth Management. Call Eb today at 777-1911. Eb?
And also, Inside Track is brought to you by Essential Pest Control. Call their team at 886-3029. Tucson Iron and Metal Retail has supported this show since 2017 and is home to builders, ranchers, farmers, and they have great steel products for home projects as well. Call them at 209-1576. And last but certainly not least, Bruce's great family-run company, Paul Ash Commercial Real Estate, where his great team makes great things happen every day. Call them at 795-2100.
You know, there was at least maybe one too many greats in that I...
Well, it's a big, great, beautiful company. Probably the most beautiful company with a big, beautiful door and a lock.
So while we wait for RNC spokesman Zach Kraft, we'll be here on our own. I think
not a
there's
problem.
lots of stuff.
Not a problem. Let me ask you a question. There's a whole bunch going on about the tariffs, and Trump just delayed 50% tariff on roughly 20 billion Canadian imports for 3 days after a last-minute deal with Canada.
Right.
Is the pain worth the leverage?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the tariff program, although sometimes it appears to be inconsistent, this is Trump's strategy in almost everything he does, is kind of leaving people off balance. And I think anything we can do to level the playing field a little better. Look, we spent the last 30 years, certainly the last 30 years, giving away the ranch to everybody and their brother on trade. And now the tables have turned.
So do you think the tariffs are finally giving America leverage over their trading partners, or is it just ultimately a tax on American consumers, kind of like the VAT tax in Europe?
Well, look, the pricing with these tariffs really hasn't impacted, to my information, pricing as much as other factors within the economy. And most of that is government imposed because of all the currency that was running through the financial system, really since Joe Biden and the crazy stuff he did. And to a certain extent, the great big beautiful bill has created some of that increased currency, which has increased inflation.
So how would a genuinely America First trade policy look like?
Well, we're going to have to wait for another time to talk about that. And
Why is that?
And you're going to hold me to that because Zach Kraft is with us.
Zach is here.
All right. Our next guest is
Let
RNC
me get my earphones
spokesman,
on.
Zach Kraft. Welcome, Zach. Tell our audience a little about your background and what your duties are at the Republican National Committee before we get to this midterm convention. I'm very excited about that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for having me on. I'm obviously a spokesman for the RNC, so I'm happy to talk to you guys about all the exciting things we're doing this election cycle to make sure that President Trump doesn't just have a Republican majority for the rest of his first 2 years, but he has it for a full 4 years. So we're working round the clock to ensure that the president is able to defy history and Republicans are able to not just maintain our majorities in the House and Senate, but grow them this fall. And part of what we're doing to achieve that is, as you mentioned, we are holding a first of its kind historic midterm convention in Dallas on September 9th and 10th.
So let's talk about that. I served at the RNC for about almost 14 years. And after Mitt Romney got smoked by Barack Obama in 2012, the RNC Commission, and you probably know some of this through your own history lessons at the RNC, we commissioned an autopsy, a real autopsy, not the ones like the Democrats just did on the 2024 election, that was chaired by Ari Fleischer. That plan, along with a very exciting candidate receiving the nomination in 2016, led to a presidential victory for the Republican Party and for the country. I served at the RNC from 2007 to 2020. I was one of the members who suggested a midterm convention at that time because we were really facing a lot of challenges in the political scene. Why now? Why is this now something that the RNC is taking on? I think it's a great idea, but tell us what the background of it.
Well, throughout his career, President Trump has defied political history and rewritten what is possible in Republican politics. We saw that, as you mentioned, in 2016 when he overcame, 17 other people on stage. He beat Hillary Clinton. He had 1% chance, according to the New York Times. Nobody gave him a shot. We saw it again in 2024. Joe Biden tried to throw him in jail, and President Trump was able to stage a historic comeback and win the presidency. So he is no stranger to, staring history in the face and overcoming. And especially, as I was just mentioning in my first answer, traditionally when, the party that holds the White House and Congress usually lose a couple seats in the midterms, just that's how the pendulum of power usually swings. President Trump is determined not to let that happen this year. So he is working round the clock and unfurling a first of its kind midterm convention to really remind the American people of the states this November that Republicans are pushing common sense policies like secure borders, the lowest murder rate in 125 years, and a historic tax cut for the middle class. Meanwhile, we will be able to contrast the crazy far-left Democrats who are pushing for open borders, questioning if America deserved 9/11, and a whole host of other far-left radical policies. This midterm convention will put all of that front and center for the American people to choose what type of future they want for this country.
So how will this convention work? Who's a delegate to this convention? How do they get there? When does it take place? And what's the general format or the theme of this midterm convention?
So traditionally, as you know, in presidential conventions, these type of events are reserved for party delegates or leaders or donors or elected officials. But President Trump has dedicated his entire career to fighting for hardworking Americans. And he wanted to make sure that when he announced this first of its kind event, that this event was not just for party insiders. He wanted to make sure the American people could attend and they could witness history firsthand. So he's, because of his leadership, we have announced at GOPconvention.com. Any of your listeners that would like to attend and see this event firsthand, you can apply for tickets either for September 9th, September 10th, or for both days. And you'll have a chance to get those tickets. And a select few of the people who apply will even get VIP tickets. What does that mean? That means they will be front row, be just feet from President Trump, and they will be able to witness history unfold just feet from where they are standing. I'm sure your listeners have been to a Trump rally. They are incredible. Whenever the president speaks, it's must-see TV. And to be honest, the opportunity to be this close to the president, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
So where will this be?
This is going to be in Dallas, Texas at the American Airlines Arena. It's a fantastic facility. I got the chance to go down there a couple of weeks ago and we did a walkthrough, saw where everything was going to be. It's a great facility. The outside of the arena, there's a part called Victory Plaza, where we're going to set up some live entertainment. There should be some very cool special guests that will come. There's going to be food, there's going to be drinks, there's going to be just a great time for everyone attending. Like I said, seeing President Trump and the great lineup of speakers and programming that we have is truly going to be just the start for this fantastic event. Round the clock, there's going to be great things for all the attendees to do. So I think anyone who's able to make the trip to Dallas that weekend or that week, I would highly encourage you to do so.
So Zach, what's the theme of this convention?
The theme is really just what is the future of America? Democrats have made very clear they want to destroy America, and that's not an exaggeration. We've seen one of their candidates running in New York who has openly stated her goal is to eradicate Western civilization. That is America. And, that's not even out of the mainstream. We've seen, self-proclaimed communists win on the Democrats. We've seen people who say they want to, eliminate Thanksgiving. What the Democrats are offering is far left craziness. And to be honest, if they get control, they will try and throw President Trump in jail again. What the Republicans are offering is common sense and improving the lives of the American people. That's going to be the theme of this convention, is contrasting craziness versus common sense. Do you want to have a country? Do you want to save America? Or do you want to let these far left radicals burn down our country and destroy what we have built for 250 years?
Yep.
So, Zach, what is the single biggest issue you believe will determine whether Republicans keep control of Congress in November? And are Republicans actually winning the argument with the voters now?
The single biggest issue is going to be quality of life. Do you want to live in an economy where you can get a job and you can support your family? Do you want to live in a city where it is safe and the murder rate is low? Do you want to live in a country where we have borders and the rule of law? Or do you want to let the far left radicals destroy all of that, create a communist society where all jobs run through the government, the borders are wide open, we let potential terrorists and criminals flood this country, and crime goes through the roof and you and your family are not safe? This election is about quality of life and what the future of America holds. Republicans have put out a very clear, positive option for the American people. The Democrats are pushing something very dark, and that would be scary for America.
So you brought up the border. The border was a major Republican strength in 2024. Does that issue have the same power with voters in 2026, or does the party need to broaden its message?
Border alone will not win the midterms, but border security is a very strong message for Republicans. And the point is very clear. Everyone today remembers how it was under Biden. It wasn't just that he was letting potential terrorists and criminals come across the border. He was flying them here on taxpayer funds. He was spending millions of dollars to fly, what would be illegal immigrants to America. Then he was turning around and taking billions of dollars in your tax dollars and giving them to these foreign nationals while you work hard and pay taxes. So yes, the border is going to be a great and important issue for Republicans this election, because no one wants to go back to the days of Joe Biden when we had open borders. People want to continue to have a secure border and safe communities where their tax dollars go to benefit American citizens, not foreign nationals.
So where do you think the Republicans are vulnerable, most vulnerable right now for November? And what are the places that look safe on paper but could surprise people on election night?
You know, the biggest vulnerability for Republicans is complacency. It's easy to say, look, we have President Trump in the White House, we've got a Republican-controlled Congress. You know, you might even live in a Republican-controlled state. You know, it's easy to say, I have got what I voted for, I'm just going to stay home this election cycle. If you do that, the Democrats will take over and they will try and throw President Trump in jail and destroy everything he has worked for. We cannot be complacent. If you want to continue to see President Trump project his positive image for this country, you need to make sure that you get your friends, and your family to turn out and vote. And if you're able to support your local Republican, please donate just $5, $10. It goes a very long way to ensure that we will still have Republican majorities in Congress, and having Republican majorities in Congress means we can still save this country.
Does $10 make a difference?
Absolutely. $10 makes a huge difference. If you are able to spare it, give it to your local candidate. That means they're going to be able to knock on doors, they're going to be able to contact voters, and they're going to be able to convince people to turn out and vote, and that could be the difference. We've seen elections, I point out Marionette Miller Meeks in Iowa. She is a Republican member of Congress who won her election by just 6 votes a couple years ago. If you don't think $10 makes a difference in an election like that, I would love to speak to you, because it definitely makes a difference.
So we had the primaries yesterday. What the hell is going on?
I think you're just seeing the far left take over the Democrat Party. You saw it in Florida where, Alex Vindman, their darling, the guy who tried to impeach President Trump a couple years ago, Democrats, Chuck Schumer gave him $15 million. They thought he had it in the bag, but he underestimated the Democrat voters, because the Democrat Party has moved so far to the left, so far to embrace the radicals, that there is no room for even just your run-of-the-mill crazy anymore. You have to be a full-blown socialist who wants open borders. And we saw that where a relative no-name in Florida pulled off a historic upset over Vindman, running on a platform of socialism, open borders, defunding the police, transgender for all. Now, this person should have no chance to win in the free state of Florida, but it is a reminder that these radicals have taken over the Democrat Party, and next up for them is trying to take over this country. So we cannot be complacent. We cannot just sit around and expect the Republicans are going to win. You have to go out to vote. You have to support local Republicans. We cannot let these far left radicals take over our country.
Zach, thanks very much for joining us today on short notice. I appreciate you standing in for us here today. Best of luck on the convention. Tell our viewers one last time, how do they get tickets to this convention?
Go to gopconvention.com, and right there you can select tickets for either September 9th, September 10th, or both days. And to be honest, the VIP option it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Anyone interested in going to this should definitely apply. It will be worth your while.
Good stuff. Thanks, Zach.
Thank you, Zach.
Thanks for having me on.
Hey, right. Bruce, it's time to close up shop for today.
Again?
And thanks so much for spending time with us today. Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, GOP nominee for U.S. House CD4, and RNC spokesperson Zach Kraft. Bruce and I hope you enjoyed the show. Please, please, please support Dr. Jasser. We need that. All of our Inside Track podcasts are available on Live the Dream Media's Facebook Live page, YouTube, Apple, and X. Bruce?
Please tune in next week when we have another action-packed show with best-selling author Brian J. Jones, and we're going to talk with him about his book, The Capitol, a biography. Not talking about the building per se, but the biography of what our U.S. Capitol is today and through history. Until then, this is Bruce Ash.
Eb Wilkinson.
See you again in